This is BayRadio.
BayRadio for you on a Wednesday afternoon, and joining us now on the phone is British Ambassador to Spain, Hugh Elliott. We appreciate you making the time to speak to us this afternoon, Ambassador.
A pleasure, Cal. Nice to be on the phone.
When we spoke a few months ago, Brexit looked like the biggest challenge for all of us. In the past week, that's changed in the most dramatic of circumstances. What message do you have for expats and holidaymakers here in Spain?
You're quite right. It certainly has. The pandemic is quite clearly our biggest challenge right now. And the message I'd have is that we here, my entire network in Spain of embassy and consulates, the government back home, we're working very closely with the Spanish government and the Spanish authorities, and in particular also for those who are looking to go home, working with the travel companies and the airlines to try to make sure that we get British citizens where they want to be, safe and sound. And my second message would be, of course, we have the state of emergency, the estado de alarma, which has been declared on Saturday night, last Saturday. And so while that remains in force, and it looks like it's set to be enforced for some time, it's really important that anybody in Spain sticks to the rules. I'm sitting here at home, working from home. We've got very clear restrictions on movement, what we're allowed to go out for, what we're not. I hope that's all well understood. We can talk about that if you want. But for everybody's safety, for everybody's health, it's really important that we beat this pandemic together.
I'm going to go first to what you've just said. Now, initially, we knew the lockdown was going to be 15 days. There are some rumours already circulating today that it could well be to the 12th of April. I know you said it's possible that that would be extended. Has a decision been made on that yet?
No, I don't think any decision has been made. I think, though, if you look around at the course of the epidemic in different countries, it looks to be something that is not going to be sorted out in the 2 weeks that the initial period of the state of emergency has been declared for. I think we can all probably see that, and I know that some politicians in Spain have already made clear, for example, some opposition parties, that they would support the extension of the state of emergency because it has to go to Congress to be extended for the extension to remain in force, for it to remain in force after the first 2 week period.
And do you know when we're expecting a decision on that? Will that be later rather than earlier?
Very difficult to say at this stage. But our working assumption at the moment, we can all speculate, but our working assumption is that we're going to be in this position for several weeks at least.
Any specific instructions, Ambassador, for our large number of pensioners here? Of course, as we know, the elderly at most at risk from this coronavirus strain.
So absolutely, and it's we've all seen the figures, and we know that it is particularly risky for those who are older. So it's all the more important that those in that category do follow the rules, do stay at home, except if you have to go out for shopping or essential items, and look after yourselves, and that all of us look after each other remotely as it has to be these days. So we're all learning a little bit about giving ourselves both sort of moral support from a distance because we can't actually be together. So I think it's particularly important for those in those of us who are a bit older to pay particular attention to looking after yourselves, follow the rules, because they're all about keeping you safe.
I know, Ambassador, that you're very grateful to the way that charities in the expat community help people throughout the normal period of time. A lot of them are stepping up right now and specifically helping out people who can't get out of the house and those that feel that they're probably too frail to venture out to the supermarkets.
The charities are doing a fantastic job. I'm hearing a little bit about that through my team, from having met sort of many of them when I was last down on the Costa Blanca. I know they're doing an amazing job, and I've got every confidence that they will be just like everybody. Actually, there's a lot of solidarity around. People are stepping up to help out those who need help, and that's absolutely fantastic.
We know that there are lots of British businesses here and British autonomo workers in Spain. We've been hearing about Spanish financial help. Will any of that Spanish aid come to Brits, perhaps, or will the UK government be able to help expats as far as that scenario is concerned, Ambassador?
I think that if you're working in Spain, then it's the Spanish government that you need to look to. It was certainly an extraordinary package of help that the Spanish government announced yesterday, in total a 200 billion euro package. A large part of that, for example, is in credit lines and guarantees for companies to help them roll over loans, meet bills, and so on. And also for those companies, small companies, who in this sort of very unfortunate but necessary enforced sort of suspension of activity. There's help for companies who may have to stop work or temporarily lay off workers to reduce their social security contributions, and so on. So there is some really important package of measures that have been put in place already. And I wouldn't discount at all that there might well be more to come, because this is a very fast-moving situation, and everybody is very conscious that it's not only a public health emergency, but it's also an economic emergency.
And of course, those of us that live here, we all have mortgages or we're paying rent, and that's a big concern, especially given the employment situation with most companies now. Absolutely,
that's absolutely right. And so this is why these measures, which we're still looking at and we're still digesting the detail of that. As I said, they only came out yesterday afternoon. And what we will do is we will make sure that we get our understanding of this and the information out in English for Brits who are living here in Spain, so that people can have the latest information. It's not something we would normally do. We would normally sort of assume that people who are sort of living here have got access to all the rules and regulations, but these are exceptional circumstances. So we will do our best to get information about these measures out to Brits in Spain.
Indeed, Ambassador. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said yesterday extraordinary times require extraordinary measures, and today he's been speaking to Congress, not very many of them actually in the building, to be honest, but he said the hardest part is yet to come. Just said that earlier. How have your meetings been going with the Spanish government and indeed London?
Well, we've been, as I said, I think a bit earlier, I've been talking quite a lot to the Spanish government, as you'd expect. I've been speaking to, for example, the foreign minister, the tourism minister, officials in all sorts of different parts of the system. The foreign secretary, Dominic Raab, spoke to the Spanish foreign minister, Arantxa González Laya, last night. Because I think, as I said, we're all in this together, and what we're trying to do is to make sure that we can, as best possible, look after people, keep them safe, and slow down and stop this pandemic. We're going to carry on doing that, and we're going to carry on working very closely with the Spanish to do that. And there really isn't a hair's breadth between us in terms of our approach to this.
Ambassador, we've had quite a few questions from people who are concerned, and obviously lots of different people's situations are different. Generally, we're having the situation where ferries have been cancelled and people now don't know how to get back. They're asking whether they can drive through Spain, up through France to the Channel Tunnel. Some of them are travelling with pets. There are other people who have flights booked to the UK from the Costa Blanca and other parts of Spain for early April, and they're asking, do we just sit and wait? Some people are in their holiday homes, which they own. Others are in rented holiday homes. It's a very fluid situation, as I appreciate. What can you say to them today, though?
Well, as you've just described, Cal, there are, it depends a lot on your personal situation. But the overall message I would say is, if you're resident in Spain, obviously stay put. But if you're not, then our advice is that you look to make your way back to the UK as soon as possible. We changed our formal travel advice late last night, involved in the light of the sort of just how things are evolving, to provide that advice. And that's why we're working very closely with the airlines, ferry companies, to try to make sure that all the services are available. I know, for example, that I think some 25 flights went out from Alicante yesterday, and other similar sort of numbers going out today. So services are still running, and we're going to try to make sure that they continue to run. Now, yes, you can drive up through Spain. Yes, you can drive through France. The French have put in place a system whereby you need a self-certification, a declaration, in order to, you may be asked to produce that if you're driving through France. You're asked not to stop, apart from for food or for petrol. and to make your way up. And at the moment, the cross-channel ferries are still running. But the two things we particularly ask people to do if you're looking to go home is to look at the website of your travel provider, whether that's a ferry company, whether that's an airline. Often the website's a better place to go to because everybody's swamped with calls at the moment. So I would say first step would be the website. Call if you need to. If you're really in trouble for some reason or you need consular assistance, then by all means call our consulates. And also, the final place to look for the latest advice, we're putting everything up on the travel advice pages on gov.uk. So if you're going through France, look for the travel advice pages on France on gov.uk. And we're trying to put everything we possibly can there. It's being updated constantly. And I should say that we're working pretty much flat out to try to do the best possible job we can. The embassy and consulates are still open, but there are very few people there because we are following the rules. The default is working from home. There are very few people actually in the offices these days.
Indeed, Ambassador, I've been speaking to a number of your staff today, and they're doing a fantastic job as always. And I know that you pretty much have been flat out on this 24/7 really since last week. In fact, I think Wednesday was when things started to change quite dramatically. And we appreciate your time for speaking to us this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Cal. It's a pleasure. And like the Spanish saying that's doing the rounds on social media, we're sticking together, we'll get through this, and we will beat this pandemic.